So this is us, and this is the list of topics I already talked through, so we'll skip through that and go right into QuickBooks Online payroll options. First option for QuickBooks Online, if you're looking to add payroll within the product, is our enhanced payroll, which is kind of the do-it-yourself payroll, if you will. We have support for all 50 states. You can print paychecks or use free direct deposit for W-2 employees. You're not paying vendors through here. Paying federal 941 or 944 taxes and 940 taxes and filing those forms electronically. So we fully support paying and filing all the federal taxes electronically. You can choose whether or not you turn that on. And then paying state taxes and filing forms electronically where it's available. So some states may not have electronic services. Some might not have it for every single tax type, but where it's available, we have it. And if it's not available, there's always a printer-ready form, coupon, worksheet, whatever that state requires for that particular tax. You can add on multi-state support, so there's offices in multiple states. You can have them all in one account. And there is no tax impounding with our product. So we're only going to pull those funds to pay taxes electronically or to pay the employees when it's due. We're not holding on to that money to pay the taxes on it later. Employees will be able to view their pay stubs online. They'll have their own portal they can sign into and see their information for the year. And you can create W-2s and file them electronically at year end. And that's independent of whether or not you set up to pay and file the state and federal taxes electronically. The W-2s are always part of that, regardless of if you're using other e-services. And the QuickBooks Online Enhanced Payroll is accessible from a browser, an iPad, an iPhone, or Android. So we actually have an Intuit payroll app you can sign into to pay and file those taxes on the go. And if you are an accountant user that's joining us today, I believe that most of the folks that were invited to this webinar are. We do have a wholesale discount through QuickBooks Online Accountant for the enhanced payroll. And we'll transition into talking about QuickBooks Online full service payroll. So our full service solution is not that do-it-yourself completely. Clients would submit payroll, employers are submitting payroll, and then Intuit is filing and paying the payroll taxes on their behalf. With full service, you have expert help during setup. They'll completely go through the onboarding process, whether you're switching from another payroll solution or QuickBooks Desktop Payroll or starting over or starting fresh, whatever. They'll guide you through that. The full service, in addition to electronically filing federal and state forms, they do the local tax forms as well. No tax penalties guaranteed since Intuit's handling that side of things. Again, no tax impounding. We're going to pay the taxes in a timely manner and only pull the funds the bare minimum of days before we need to. Accuracy is guaranteed, and just like the enhanced payroll, it's accessible from a browser, iPad, iPhone, Android, so it's totally on the go. And there is a wholesale discount on the full service payroll through QuickBooks Online Accountant as well. Something to know, regardless of which version of QuickBooks Online payroll products you're using, the payroll products are embedded inside of QuickBooks Online, but the data really only moves in one direction. I think that's important to know. So all of the payroll activities will be done within that kind of payroll add-on product, and it's seamless and it's embedded and all of that flows to the registers, but it doesn't go the other direction. So if you're in QuickBooks Online and you're writing checks, or putting in journal entries or doing things in the registers or the bank feed, it's not going to impact payroll. So all the payroll stuff needs to kind of come from payroll and go into QBO, not the other direction. I run into a lot of questions when people are first getting started. Hey, we've got some open to-do items. We have liabilities that look like they haven't been paid, but they have. It's not showing on the payroll reports. And most of the time that's because they entered a check for that liability as opposed to going through the payroll module to pay the employees, pay the taxes, and file the forms. So keep that in mind as we're going through. It'll make a bit more sense, I think, when we jump in the product. And I'm going to jump in the product in just a moment, but I did want to pull up kind of what the best fit clients look like for either one of these products, really. Kind of just like QuickBooks Online, if you're seeking a low-maintenance solution, to kind of be in that cloud environment where everything's automatically updating. You're not having to run any updates. You're not having to transfer files back and forth or set up any complicated hosting or anything to run payroll. If you want to have your payroll and accounting all in one place, it's embedded in the product as opposed to having payroll as its own separate product that you're pulling data into QuickBooks Online. Having a mobile option, being able to know that if you're in a crisis and it's Wednesday afternoon at 4:52 and you need to run payroll by 5 o'clock, you can go into the app, sign in, and get that all taken care of. And then comfortable working online, of course. Chances are if they're using this, they've already started with QBO or they're thinking about making that switch and doing both at the same time. The online payroll is only U.S. addresses at this point, so all 50 states, but we don't have support for Guam or Puerto Rico. Approximately 50 or fewer employees is kind of the sweet spot. You can have up to 150 active employees, but really around 50 or fewer is the best fit, I would say. Filing 941 or 944 forms. There isn't support at this time for 943, so if you're agricultural, don't have support for that at this time. And then weekly, bi-weekly, twice a month or monthly pay schedule, so nothing for quarterly or annual. One or more offices, but no roaming employees. So if Jessica works in Idaho and I work in Chicago, when we have our home office and that's what we're getting paid out of or whatever, as opposed to somebody who's traveling around the country working in all different spots all the time, there might be some extra tax implications that we don't support with that kind of scenario. And then when it comes to set up basics, I'm looking to see if there's any questions. Looks like it was just that somebody didn't see my screen at first. Pop open and look at this. Okay, somebody did ask if the webinar was for U.S. payroll, so it is. All right. Okay, to get into some setup basics, and I know I'm kind of flying through here, but hopefully we're going at a decent pace. What information is needed if you're setting up payroll? So we mentioned the full service team is going to take care of the bulk of that for you. They've got onboarding folks that can get everything done, or you can enter it yourself if you'd like. But either way, whether you're doing that enhanced payroll that's kind of a do-it-yourself or you're having Intuit assist, you're going to want to have this stuff on hand. So W-4 information for all employees, their pay information, how often they're paid, their salary, those types of details, federal and state tax filing info for the business, year-to-date totals for each employee, and year-to-date totals as of the last pay date in the prior quarter. So this is important to know. We're not going to make you enter in every single check that you've done for the whole year, but we are going to want to summarize that data as of the end of the most recent quarter and then kind of break down the current quarter. So it's end of July, the last payroll quarter ended June 30th, so we would ask you to put in all the year-to-date info for anybody that was paid January to the end of June, and then we'll ask for the payroll totals for the current quarter by pay date. So we'd say, okay, if you did payroll, every other week, we'd ask you as of this pay date, what were the totals. So depending on the time of year, you may have more or less information to worry about, but we try and do as much as we can to just let you summarize. You'll need to know if you've made any tax payments this year so you can get those properly recorded. And then if you are going to use direct deposit or electronic services for paying and filing the taxes, you'll want to make sure you have a company bank account and routing info and principal officer information so that we can go through a validation process on the bank account, and then also employee bank information if you're using direct deposit. And we have, when you're setting up employees, you can print like the authorization form for them to fill out their routing and account number. We actually have a new piece of functionality too, and I'll get to that in a moment, for employee onboarding. When I am going to add payroll, I've got a couple of options. So I can do that through QuickBooks Online Accountant. When I'm setting up a client for QBO, I can bundle payroll in. That was the pricing that I showed before. You can also add payroll after the fact. So you already have QBO and you're looking to add payroll now by going to the Employee tab and clicking the Add Payroll or Get Started with Payroll, depending on what it says there. I know it can vary sometimes, but you'll go to the Employees tab and there'll be a spot to get started, and it usually just guides through a couple of questions to see which fit is going to be best, if it's the enhanced or that full service, depending on what needs you might have and how much you'd like Intuit to take on for you. And here's what to expect next. If you chose enhanced payroll, it's going to guide you through entering the employee details, the tax info, that prior payroll info for the year. With full service, you'll have some onboarding steps and you'll have assistance and resources as you get started, and it can kind of be as hands-off or hands-off, or hands-on or hands-off, excuse me, as best fits your needs. We've got people that can help you through that. If you've converted to QuickBooks Online from QuickBooks Desktop, in most cases, the payroll data now converts and simply needs to be verified to make sure it's all accurate. So we'll actually pull in the employee information, the payrolls that they've had this year, and we just walk you through verifying all the year-to-date totals and all of that good stuff. And if there's anything that needs to be mapped, we guide you through that as well. I say in most cases because occasionally somebody might have some really crazy stuff going on in desktop payroll that causes it to not convert. So if it's all cleaned up and ready to go, you should be okay. And we've got some great resources on what that would look like as well. People are asking if we're going to be discussing Tsheets integration. We sure are. So we're going to get to that at about the half hour. So I'm just doing a bit of QBO payroll background, and then we'll get into Tsheets. So stick with us. There is a new feature that's being launched that is an employee self-setup feature. This is brand new as of last month. Only available in 16 states so far, but we're looking to expand that. And essentially what this allows you to do is give employees the option of entering their personal information, their W-4 details, their bank account info. So when I go to add a new employee, it will ask me if I'd like to invite them to enter their personal information so that I don't have to have that, and, you know, of course, helping it be more accurate, right, because then they're putting in their bank info instead of passing that around. So we ask for an email address, and then we send that, give a security code so that they can complete their setup. So that's something new with new payroll accounts to keep an eye out for, and we'll be launching that to more states soon, I'm sure. And then we'll get into a little bit of time tracking, and I promise I'm going to jump in and we'll run payroll and go through some of the screens here. I know it's a lot of slides to start us off, but I did want to talk before we get into Tsheets on what QuickBooks Online has by itself, just so you kind of have that as a baseline when we look at all the things that Tsheets can add. So we've done some updates to what time tracking only users experience in QuickBooks Online. So in QBO, we do have the option to set up time tracking users. It used to only be available in Plus. Now you're able to do time tracking in Essentials and Plus. And if I set up a time tracking only user, when they sign in, Amy or Tom here, Amy's on her phone, Tom's on a browser, all he sees is the option to enter a timesheet, a single time activity, or look at a report of his own hours. So these are the views that you see in QBO if you're a time tracking only person. So you're able to do some basic time entry, but it's timesheets, it's time activities, it's not clocking in and clocking out and getting scheduling and all those types of things that we'll see with Tsheets. Within QuickBooks Online itself, and I'm just going to pop into my client here, I can go to the plus sign here, and I'll see the options for single and weekly time activity. So if I'm like an admin user or an accountant user signed in, I can pick an employee and see their timesheet, pick a period, whatever, and see anything that's been entered in and all of those details. I can run reports on all of the time for employees or vendors. So you can set up employees or vendors to be time tracking users. This information is going to flow into payroll, but again, we're going to see how Tsheets can kind of go beyond what we do natively. But that's something that can be turned on in the accountant settings. See an option for time tracking under advanced. So I can decide if I'm going to add that service field to timesheets, if I'm going to make time activity billable to customers, if those time users are going to see the billing rate when I enter time and the first day of the work week. And then we'll get more into Tsheets in a bit here. So let's talk about running payroll and what it looks like. A lot of you are asking me for slides. While Jess is talking, I'll upload that to the thing here so that you guys can see a PDF of the slides. I should have done that ahead of time, so yes, I can get those to you. If I enter a customer name with time, does that not allow for job costing? So job costing is a great question. We've been doing some things kind of more on the QBO side than the payroll side to do additional project tracking functionality in QuickBooks Online. Today, our online payroll product doesn't have any job costing or labor costing, but when Jess talks about Tsheets, I'm sure she can touch on some of the reporting that they can do within their apps on time to show that breakdown. That might be a good solution for you. So, okay. All right, we're getting to Tsheets in a moment here, but let's run payroll, look at a couple things with tax payments and form filings, and run a couple of reports for the next 10 minutes here, then I promise we'll get to some Tsheets action. Okay, so you'll have the Employees tab. Here we are. All right. So when I go into the Employees tab, if I've already set up payroll, I've already gotten all my year-to-date info and all of that, this account has been running payroll throughout the year a little bit. We're going to see the list of employees, and I can drill into each of them if I need to make any updates. If I'm setting them up initially, I'm entering this information in. I would go to Pay to make any edits or to set up pay rates. You can have multiple hourly pay rates if you need to. I can set up additional pay types. So if I go into Edit This, I'm going to see the full range here, and this is a test account, so it's kind of got a lot going on, but showing, I guess, that you can have many different hourly rates for one employee if you needed to. And then other pay types are going to show here. So I would check off the ones that apply to this particular employee. I can go into even more ways to pay if I need to see any other options that are perhaps less common. So I can check those off, fill in anything that needs to populate automatically here, or leave it empty if I'm going to enter the amount as I run payroll. I can also make updates to their profile and their employment itself. So if I need to do new hire reporting, if I need to make sure that I get an I-9 for this employee, I can get all of that filled in here as well. Coming back into pay, this is also where I would set up any extra deductions and contributions and things too. If I'm using direct deposit, I would set that up for Abby. In my account, direct deposit is not turned on because I don't want to actually process anything, but that's where you would go. And you can split direct deposits to 2 accounts or have part of it a paper check and part of it a direct deposit if necessary. If any employees are missing information, it would highlight that I need to do that before I run payroll for them. And then if I have bonus or commission only or fringe benefits that I need to run a bonus only, commission only, or fringe benefit only check for, I can use that drop down to choose that, and it'll guide me through the process. Or I can run payroll, and then I can add commission and bonus and such as I'm going through. I can have different employees on different schedules, so I can choose which schedule I'm wanting to run payroll for right now. And then I would see any employees that fit that schedule. I can check them on or off as needed here. And she's probably unchecked because she doesn't have full details. I would choose my pay period. And then I can override the pay date. When I'm setting up the employees, I'm establishing the pay schedules and their pay dates and all of those things. And then I can enter in their hours, and then any other fields that apply to them. So if they had the holiday pay, the sick pay, those types of things turned on, those fields would each show across here. It looks like these employees are pretty basic. They just have hours, and one of them has commission. So if I'm using the timesheets in QBO, that data is going to flow through, but you'll see how Tsheets even goes beyond that. So I'm just going to put in some hours here for them. I've then got the option to save for later or go to the next step to preview payroll. When I preview payroll, we'll see a breakdown along the top of the payroll cost, net pay, employee, employer, and then what's going to be delivered by direct deposit, or if we need to generate paper checks, we'll see the details here. Both of my employees are being paid by check, so I'm seeing when I need to deliver those checks by to get them paid on time. I can make some final edits here if I needed to override anything for whatever reason. So I'll see the hours, and then I can click to expand the employee and employer taxes. I'd also see any deductions and contributions, and then anything that's not locked into a certain percentage I could override if I needed to. That's pretty rare, but it does come up. I still have the option here to save for later, or I can go forward to submit payroll. And in the case of these employees, I've set up where I'm writing a check and then printing a pay stub. If you need to do paycheck printing, we guide you through that setup as well. But in this case, that's what's turned on here. So I could enter a check number, and then if I have a huge list of employees, I can have it autofill the numbers down the line. And then there's also a link here to view the payroll reports. What I like about this link is it opens up to export these payroll reports to Excel. Each of the reports selected will show up as its own table in Excel. And I can go into the company settings and pick which reports I'd like to include in this package that I'm exporting. I can also, run them individually, of course, and we'll show that in the reports area as well. So I would click to finish payroll. If I have any taxes or forms that need to be taken care of right away, it's going to prompt for that. If I'm, on a monthly schedule or something, it might not, depending on where we are in the month. If I go into the taxes section, I'll have a tab for sales tax and a tab for payroll tax. I'm going to pop over to payroll tax. And I will see any taxes that are coming up due or overdue, if that's the case. And I can go into pay taxes to take care of those. Now, again, I'm in a test account, so things are a little out of control in here. If I have electronic services turned on, it's going to tell me how soon I need to submit that to get it paid on time. If they're not on, I can record payments that I've made outside of the system. So there is that flexibility of turning the electronic services on if you'd like, or just using QuickBooks as a place to record things that you've done elsewhere. If there's any overpayments or anything, it'll guide you through resolving that as well. And then if I go back to that main payroll tax page, I also have those options for the forms. So I can click into my quarterly forms and see everything that's applicable to these employees. So I've got employees working in a lot of different states, so depending on your client, you may see more or less here. And then I can drill into each of these. And again, I would record the payments and preview the 941, and if I've got the e-services turned on, I'll have that option to electronically file the form, and we keep an archive of everything that's been filed where I can see, if it was electronically filed or just archived because I took care of it outside of QuickBooks. I could certainly spend a lot more time here, but I want to make sure we get to Tsheets in a minute. So I just want to jump into a couple of reports very quickly. If I go into the All Reports area in QuickBooks Online, I can jump into Manage Payroll. That is where all the payroll reports live. Again, these reports are only going to reflect things that are entered in that employee's payroll window or in that payroll tax area. So if something was in the register, it wouldn't necessarily reflect in these payroll reports, so know that. One of the things I get a lot of questions around is getting a payroll summary that's similar to what's in QuickBooks Desktop. Now, I'm just the messenger, but something to know in QuickBooks Online is we, for whatever reason, we have that payroll summary that's similar to desktop under payroll details. But you do configure it in one slight way to see the same information. If I go into a payroll details report, I can choose my date range, and then I can choose to run it as a summary by employee. And I can pick a work location, break this down a little further, and then run report, and then I will see the grand total for all the checks they've had so far this year, and then the totals for everybody down at the bottom, and kind of grand totals below. So it's kind of a flip from what you would see in QuickBooks Desktop. I know a lot of people are really familiar with that. But if I'm looking for the breakdown of employee paid and company paid taxes for everybody, broken down summary for the year, each employee, this is how I would generate that report. And of course, I could look at this by year, quarter, or whatever. In general, the payroll reports in QuickBooks Online, if you're looking to print or export them, it's kind of a little different than the regular QBO reports. I have that option to share if I'm looking to email it, export it to Excel, or have a printer-friendly version. So I use that drop-down to do so. I'm back. Another report I wanted to point out is the payroll tax and wage summary. When I run that, I will see the breakdown of each tax type, and when I click in to drill down, I'll see the breakdown for that tax type by employee. So if I'm looking for that information, that's where I'd find it. I can use the back button to get to the main page of the report. And again, I can kind of do a little bit of breaking down, exporting to Excel, and the printer-friendly. If I go into the gear and payroll settings, this is where I'll find all of the preferences for the account as a whole. So if I need to do any updates to pay schedule, vacation, sick, and PTO, and deductions and contributions, going through to update my electronic services or set that up for the first time, and then anything revolving around the accounting preferences, where things are going to land in QuickBooks Online once it gets entered in, the paycheck printing, form printing, emails, so we will send reminders, and there's some preferences here you can turn on and off for those. And then the reports, this is going to be if I wanted to have some reports automatically ready to go and export it to Excel in a group after I run payroll. And I could go on, but I'm going to hand things over to Tsheets here, and I'll look through some of the questions. Thanks for your patience with those. As Jess is talking, I'll work to answer those as well. So I hope that was kind of a helpful, quick half-hour overview, and let's do some swapping of screens here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Val, and that was such a good overview. I always need a refresher on all these things, so I super appreciated it. And hi, everybody. My name is Jessica, as I was introduced at the beginning of the presentation, and I'm going to be doing a demo of Tsheets for you today, along with showing how the integration inside of QuickBooks looks now, because Tsheets, as hopefully you know, and if you haven't heard yet, it's very exciting, but we actually live within QuickBooks Online now, so not just a integration, but actual living inside of the product. So really excited to showcase that for you. I did let Val know, but I'm not able to see the questions you guys are asking for some reason, so just be patient if you ask questions. I let Val know to just kind of pepper me with those maybe at the end if we have time. So if you do have a question, just go ahead and put that in there. Val will see it, and then we'll make sure to get them answered. So, so what you guys are looking at now, this is my Tsheets account. So for those of you that aren't super familiar with the product, we are a cloud-based time tracking and scheduling software, which basically just means you can clock in and clock out from anywhere at any time, and then use that data to run reports. You can manage that time from anywhere, schedule events from anywhere, and then that time will just live right inside of QuickBooks Online. You can use it for payroll, as we're going to discuss, along with invoicing and billing as well. So I'm actually going to start off first with our schedule, just to show you how that looks, because this is it's a somewhat newer feature. We've had scheduling, gosh, for maybe, I guess, a year now, but we didn't have it for a long time, but we thought it made a lot of sense. I suppose if your employees can track time in Tsheets, you might want to be able to schedule time for them as well, so they know where they're going when they go to clock in every day. So that's what we've come up with here. So our schedule, it works in two main ways. We have shift scheduling, and then we have job scheduling. So I'm going to talk through both of those options just quickly. So shift scheduling, of course, is going to be, like if you have a client who owns a bakery and they need coverage for the day, they need to make sure that from when they're open to when they're closed, they've got that coverage, they have everything that they need there. So for that shift scheduling, what I could do, let's say I wanted to kind of build out tomorrow's schedule, I could click into this unassigned box. That's just going to open up a blank shift for me. I'm going to title this morning shift, for example. These colors over here, these can be used in whichever way you'd like. So they could be used per location if you're a bakery maybe with multiple locations. They could be used per employee if each employee has their own color, maybe type of shift, maybe type of work they're doing. Basically there for you to use however you'd like. And then this customer box we'll leave blank for now because that's not super pertinent for your shift scheduling. Location, this could be used maybe if you had multiple locations and you share employees at each. You could type in, which bakery they need to go to. And then notes, I could leave notes on, pull cookie dough from back, mop floors. So I could leave notes for my employees on what we need accomplished during that shift, make sure I have it scheduled for the right time, and then I'm going to hit Save as Draft. Basically what that's going to do is it's going to put that shift as a draft on my calendar, but it's not going to actually assign it to anybody. And basically what that allows me to do is to build out my schedule for the week, kind of take a look at everything, make sure that I've got, PTO tracked and everything in the right place before I'm going and assigning shifts to employees, which I, as an employee, find super helpful. Back when I actually worked at a coffee shop, when you get your one schedule and you think you're good to go and you head home for the day and then you find out that they changed the schedule later in the day and you didn't know about that. So it's nice to be able to just have it kind of all here, play around with it, and then once you've gotten that built, you can drag and drop, and then you can publish your schedule. What that does is it sends a notification to your employee, letting them know that a new shift was assigned to them. So that shows up on their app if they're tracking time on our app, or it can show up right here on their schedule on the Tsheets account, or it can even be then pushed to like Google Calendar, iCalendar, Outlook, whatever you'd like. So it does that there. And then the other option is, of course, like a job schedule, and that might be more like if you have clients who are in the service-based industry, like plumbing, for example. Perhaps you go in, and we actually have one right here. And this is a series of events, but I'm going to pull this up, and basically what you could do then is, let's say you've got a client who calls, they have a leaky faucet, for example, and I'm so sorry, I think I'm having a little bit of a slow internet day here, so sorry it's just taken a little bit longer than usual, but basically what I could do here is, my client calls, they have a leaky faucet, they need somebody to come over quickly. I can put this information into my schedule, and then I can schedule my employees later once I know who's maybe the closest to the job site or who's the most available. So I've got my customer listed, I have what time they need to show up. I've also left the notes. Here's that gate code that they're going to need to get in and the purple key that they'll also need. And then again, I can publish this, and I can drag and drop and assign that shift to my employees as well. So that is our schedule in a nutshell. You can, like I said, export this to like Google Calendar, Outlook, iCalendar, and you can also view this by customer. So if you wanted to take a look at what work you had scheduled for your customers for the week, and then basically looking at your days per customer, or you can look at it per employee. So I'm going to go ahead and close that down and then move on to tracking time in Tsheets. I already kind of hinted at how you would track time in Tsheets by saying that we have a mobile app. So there's a few different ways you can track time in Tsheets. We have a mobile app. We also have, so that's going to be on iPhone and Android, where employees can just have that right on their phone, their personal device, open that up, clock in, clock out, switch from job to job throughout the day. We also have this punch-in style time card right here on the computer. We do have a kiosk mode as well. That is a newer, it's a newer mode, and that would be something that you might have on like an iPad or any type of tablet that can be mounted, on a wall in your office, or at the front of a location, or you could even have it on multiple iPads and like trucks at different locations or different construction sites. Employees can go type in a 4-digit PIN that's unique to them on that kiosk. It's going to actually do a scan of their face, so it's going to do some facial recognition to make sure it's that person that's actually clocking in. Going to put them on the job for the day. So those are just a few of the ways you can track time in Tsheets, but I'm actually going to focus on this time card here since it's right here on my computer. So this is our punch style time card. And what you've probably noticed is I've got a list of customers and jobs over here. These actually came right over from my QuickBooks file. So in terms of tracking time in Tsheets, I can track time against customers, jobs, service items, classes, and that billable yes/no choice right from my QuickBooks account. So no double entry required to get those set up. Just import them over right from my QuickBooks file, and then employees can start tracking time against those things. And again, as I say it all the time, but we are super customizable. So if you're seeing these things and you think like, oh, I had a client who I thought might be a great fit, but that feels really robust, it can be as simple or as robust as you need it to be. So if you just need a clock in and clock out option, that's available. If you need the more job costing, tracking time against jobs, that's available as well. So I have been on the clock here since about 8 o'clock this morning. You can see I've been tracking time. There's my current time that shows how much I've been on the clock on that particular job, how much I've been working that day, and then how much I've been working that week. And then if I need to switch from job to job, I just hit that switch button. And then that's going to clock me in from one job to the next. I can choose a different service item if maybe I'm going from destroying to discovery. It's going to save all of that as well. So at any time I'm tracking time against a specific job or task, I'm also tracking my day total and my week total. Those are going to keep climbing, so I can switch from job to job throughout the day. No loss of time there as I switch around. I can also leave notes on my time card on what's happening. Those save automatically, so if I need to leave a note on something that happened at the job site, anything like that, I can do that right there. The other time card that's available on this web dashboard is something that might be more applicable actually to you on the line today and to more like salaried workers or customers like lawyers are big fans of this. It's our manual time card. This probably looks a bit more familiar like the Excel spreadsheets you're used to using or even like the putting the time into QuickBooks Online as it stands. So this I can just choose the customer that I'm working on. And then I would just go to the day and I could put in, let's say yesterday I worked 6 hours on that customer. I would choose my service item and then hit save. Just a really easy way to track my total hours. I can track, I could do that daily, weekly. I could do that every pay period if needed. And it's not clock in, clock out, so it's not a time in and a time out. It's just basic hours. So really good, like I said, for maybe salaried or for your billable hours, just keeping track of those there. So that is tracking time in Tsheets at a pretty high level. Like I said, we have other options as well. I'd love to follow up with all of you on more specific examples, but I'm going to keep on moving in interest of time. Actually over onto our Who's Working window, which is one of my favorite things to showcase with Tsheets. So this Who's Working window is actually one of our founder, Matt Rissell. It's one of his favorite things. Because you can log in here, you could log into your Tsheets account from home, or if you're on a business trip in New York, and most of your employees are in Idaho, like Tsheets is, you can log in and see, who's working, what they're working on, so what job they selected, how long they've been working on it, and you can actually click on this GPS location and see where your employee is located at that given time. You can see where they clocked in from, where they clocked out from, and where they are in real time, and that's all through the clock in and clock out on our mobile app. So when employees use that mobile app, it tracks their data. It uses data to pull a GPS location. And then you can zoom in on these maps, and you can actually view them in satellite or in just map view to see where your employee is located. Now I know it looks like my employee here is tracking time in the middle of an empty field, but this is actually where our new Tsheets headquarters has been built. It's just not been updated on Google Maps on that image, the satellite image, to show you. But we're not actually just sitting in the middle of an empty field in Eagle, Idaho. We have a new, beautiful, brand new 3-story building that we're in here. So that is where I can see that. I can click on that and see the timestamp of when that was pulled, what time. And if I had multiple employees using their mobile app, I would be able to see where all of my employees were located on that map as well. This Who's Working window also allows the managers some additional permissions. So as a manager, I could come in here and I can actually clock an employee in right from this Who's Working window. So I can put them on the clock, choose what customer they're working in. Let's say they forgot their phone or something like that. I can clock them in. Oh, you'll hear a fun noise. We do have some fun noises in Tsheets for clock in and clock outs. And then you also can, clock an employee out from there as well if they forgot.
Hey, Jess.
Yes.
Question for you that came in. I think I know the answer. If you have some employees that need to see who's working, so maybe staff managers, other
sure.
People, supervisors, whatever, you can set up who can see that, who's working, and who can only see their own time entry, right?
You got it. Yep, that's exactly right. So you can have this set up so that certain employees can see the who's working window and certain employees can't. And then at an additional level, maybe you have it where all of your supervisors can see all of the employees that are working, but they can only clock in and clock out and edit the time of those specific employees. So yes, they definitely can. Perfect. And then now I'm going to actually pop over and talk a bit about managing time, just kind of how to keep track of all these things. Of course, you know, we are only human and sometimes we do make mistakes. We try really hard to help out our employees. We send them reminders on when they should clock in and clock out. We send them reminders on if they've hit overtime. Send you emails if your employees worked over so many hours in a day if it seems a little off from their normal schedule. But of course, things happen, so we've made it really easy for you to edit that time as well. So this time entry section kind of houses all of the manual editing for time. So from right here, I can actually see every single one of my employees' timesheets since when we very first started tracking time. So we're going to keep all this data for you hosted right on the cloud. It's accessible again from anywhere, so you can log in here and see all of your timesheets. And then we have these 4 icons over at the right. These are basically your tools that you have in your toolbox here. So you're able to edit a timesheet. So for example, I see this timesheet that's 24 hours long. It's probably inaccurate. They didn't probably work for an entire day. So I can make an edit to that timesheet. You know, I'm assuming that they forgot to clock out. So I can adjust that to, you know, 8 p.m. or whatever. Hopefully I've got notes that would kind of indicate to me, well, I guess that makes more sense. It's an overnight shift. There we go. You know, and I can, of course, hope that my employees are leaving notes. And if they forget, I'm checking these things with other supervisors, but it's an easy way for me to edit that time. I can delete a timesheet if I see another one that looks like it's just way too long. And then I can also view my system log on my timesheet. So if I click on this right here, it actually shows me that Tom Cruise tracked time in T-Sheets and that Danny, who's his supervisor, came in and edited his timesheet. So he clocked him out on his behalf because Tom Cruise probably forgot to clock out. So we keep track of all of that for you, which actually makes us DOL and DCAA compliant. So it means that those timesheets do hold up in the court of law, where you've got that actual log in the cloud that shows when edits were made, who made those edits. It just protects you and protects your employees in labor disputes. So we do keep track of all of that for you. And then the last thing, of course, is those GPS locations. You can see them after the fact as well. So you can always open this up and again see that your employee, where they clocked in, where they clocked out, where they were throughout the day by clicking on those dots. And like I said, we'll keep track of all of that for you. So if I want to log in here and see where Tom Cruise had spent his time last July 25th, I could do that, just find his timesheet in here and take a look at all those things. So that is managing time in T-Sheets. And then the last thing I do want to show you before I jump into the QuickBooks integration is just some different reports. We have a lot of different reports in T-Sheets. So I'm actually going to focus on the project report because I typically show off the approvals report, but that's going to be fixed in that QuickBooks integration. So this project report is the one I'll show off for you today. This report's really great because it allows you to see how your time has been spent as a company in terms of maybe invoicing and billing. So you can always take a look and see how much time is being spent on different projects. So I'm going to go ahead and just run this report for last week. And what I see here is that I have different customers that my employees spent time working on. So I see that we spent 63.17 hours on the downtown office, 52 hours on that 1313 South Longmont. Groups is actually my groups of employees. So if I had different supervisors with different employees reporting to them, I can see total work per group. So I have my field crew worked most of the time. Looks like over half the time was done by my field crew, that type of thing. I can also see how much time my employees tracked. So how much time my employees were tracking in that given date range, how much time we spent on our different services or tasks. And then I can actually click on a piece of this pie and get the data for just that particular customer. So if I want to just take a health check, for example, on this particular customer, see what we're doing for them, how much time we've worked, we've been doing a lot of cleanup for them and a little discovery, and I can just keep track and make sure that my billable rates are lining up with how much we're working, just kind of see how much time has been spent so far. If I quoted the customer, we'd be done in 60 hours and we were already at 52.75, maybe I can go back to my customer and let them know it's actually going to take a bit longer than I thought. And then all these reports can be downloaded into CSV or Excel. They can be printed as well. So that is one of the reports, but like I said, instead of showing you our payroll reports in Tsheets, I'm actually going to hop in over here to QuickBooks Online and show you how this works now. So it used to be that with our integration, you had to run an approvals report in Tsheets, you had to look at the time in Tsheets, and then you had to approve that time in Tsheets, and it exported over into your weekly timesheets in QuickBooks. Now, it actually shows up here in this plus sign in the upper right-hand corner in this new section that says Approved Time. If you don't see this section or haven't seen that section, just because you need a Tsheets account. So this shows up specifically for that Tsheets integration since it's where it pulls that data from. So when I click on Approved Time, this is actually just going to pull all that data over for me right now. So I didn't have to export it or do anything. I just can see for the date range of the 10th through the 16th, I had 14 employees work. They worked a total of 866 hours, in 20 minutes. And then here's all my employees. Here's the total time they worked. And then there's that approve option again. So I'm able to now approve the time right here in QuickBooks instead of doing it in Tsheets. And I can also click into each employee, and I can take a look and see the hours that they worked. I can see, the shifts that they were working, what customers they are working on. I can even see that GPS location. So if I click on a particular timesheet here, let me see if I have one that has a map. There we go. So I can see all of that information right from QuickBooks now, and it also means that I don't have to go and go from Tsheets and QuickBooks back and forth. All of my information is just right there, right within my QuickBooks Online account. I can edit the time from there, so I can make edits to the clock in and the clock out times, change the customer, do all of that right from there, save it, and I'm well on my way. So that just has made that workflow that much easier, just lets you stay right inside of QuickBooks, do all your work from QuickBooks. Your employees will still track their time in Tsheets, and then you can do all of your editing, reporting right from here. And then once that time is here, which it already is since it just shows up, once you've approved it, you can then use it for your payroll. If you're using, QuickBooks Online Payroll, QuickBooks Full Service Payroll, we also integrate with Intuit Online Payroll as well via a Chrome extension. So it works with all of those payroll softwares, and then that time's just right there to use for that. You can also use it, like I said, for your invoicing and your billing. So that, in a nutshell, is Tsheets plus QuickBooks Online. I do want to mention pricing. I know that we talked about that with payroll with Val. For those of you on the line today and I'm assuming all of you, or at least the majority of you, are pro advisors or accountants, bookkeepers, you actually get Tsheets for free. We have a pro program really similar, actually modeled after the QuickBooks Online Pro Advisor program. And it's basically, the intent of it is to let you have a Tsheets account so that you can kick the tires, you can see how that account works, make sure that it's a good fit. You're also going to get lots of training on how Tsheets product works, and then we help you get clients onto Tsheets as well, just to help you with that payroll process, help you get your clients, more on the cloud, make sure that you're offering them a great bundle of services, and then you can even earn a commission on those clients. You can do a wholesale billing and pay for your clients' accounts at an extremely discounted rate and then add that onto your monthly bill for them. So we try to make it really flexible, but it's a really great program. You can sign up for it at tsheets.com/pros, or I'm Jessica at tsheets.com. So you can also email me if you have more questions about today's presentation, or if you wanted to get signed up, and I can help you with that as well. That is all I had to share. Val, did I have any more questions that popped in that I need to go over?
There was one about Tsheets approved, so I think you showed that. And one of the things I wanted to say that I really love about how the Tsheets data flows to payroll is if you've got overtime rules established in Tsheets or paid time off or any of that, it's going to flow to those spots, which wasn't always the case. And so I really like that it takes those things into consideration, and that the accuracy that Tsheets has around overtime and all the different compliance with that is really, really cool. And then somebody did ask about client rates, so I don't know if you want to kind of high
Sure.
level starting point for Tsheets.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have two different ways you can do that. So our wholesale is our more popular, where basically you're going to be paying for your client's account at a 25% discounted rate. And actually, let me just pull up our pricing page since it'll be easier for everybody to look at. And that's going to be off of our monthly fees. So essentially, Tsheets is a $20 per month base fee, and then it's $5 per user per month. So you could either be billed for that wholesale at a 25% discount, or if you'd rather have your client paid directly, they can pick whichever billing plan they'd like. You will earn a 20% commission for the first year that the client is with us off of that plan, and they'll get a 10% discount by signing up through you. So those are the two options there. And if you have questions on the easiest way to do that, how to refer clients to us, if you are a pro with us already and you don't have an account manager, those are all things I'd love, like I said, to follow up with you on. So just shoot me an email or give our support line a call, or like I said, let us know how we can help you moving forward.
And there was one question about that. Time tracker snapshots are in the plan. So I think maybe that's if all the reporting and all of those things, the mobile app, all that's included in the subscription, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of for the Pro Advisor, so for that Pro program, you get complete access, complete unlimited access to a Tsheets account. So if you're a firm with 40 employees and you all want to track time and play around in here and do scheduling, you can do that for free. That's completely free for all of the employees. And then in terms of your clients, everything you saw today is included in the price, except for our scheduling does have an additional fee, as you'll see right down here. It's an additional $1.25 per user per month. But everything else, the mobile app, the kiosk, the integration with QuickBooks Online, integration with even QuickBooks Desktop if you still have some clients doing that, all of that is included right in your price.
And I know we've had, I didn't see any come through on this webinar, but I've had people ask, well, what if we've got, other non-QuickBooks payroll solutions, we've got too many employees or something's going on. I will say that a lot of different payroll providers have some kind of connection to bring that data into QuickBooks Online. Sometimes they call it like a general ledger export-import. And I know Tsheets, well, I hope that you're using Tsheets with QuickBooks Online Payroll. I know sometimes it's not always the best fit, so Tsheets has integrations with other payroll providers as well. And you can, of course, email Jess if you've got questions about all of that. So,
absolutely.
Looking to see if anybody has any last questions. Otherwise, we might close things out a minute or so early.
Hey, that's never a bad thing. Working for a time tracking solution, love to give people some time back into their day. So.
Definitely. Okay. Well, I hope that this was informative. I know we fit a lot of information into an hour. So please feel free to let us know if you have any other questions. I did upload my slides if you need those. And then I didn't put the pricing in there because I know sometimes those promotions and things can change from time to time. So you can always see that pricing on QuickBooks.com. Go to the accountant section and you'll see the breakdown of that. Or within QuickBooks Online Accountant, when you go to Add a Client, you see the pricing there as well. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. I'll give everybody a minute or so left in their day. And thank you again, Jess, for joining me this afternoon, morning, depending on where you are.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Val. I appreciate it. Have a good day, everybody.